We're a couple minutes late, so we'll get going if that's okay. Thank you for coming. It's good to see some familiar faces in the crowd. It's also better to see people I've not seen before as well. So my name's Charles Krolik-Root. I'm the Programme Manager for the Community Flood Action Programme at Cambridgeshire County Council. So I thought we'd kick off the day by giving a sort of brief introduction to our flood risk team and the sort of areas that we work in within the County Council, so you can get a better idea of what we're up to, what our kind of day-to-day roles are, and you know what sort of departments within our team you might want to be addressing when you're getting in touch with us. So within the County Council, there's sort of two departments I would imagine that you would be getting in touch with regarding flood risks. So one of them is Cambridgeshire Highways. They're a risk management authority and they deal with flooding on roads and pavements. The other team, which is separate, is our flood risk team, which you might see termed as the Lead Local Flood Authority. That term is more of is formal and it relates to our sort of statutory duties. The Lead Local Flood Authority, as Cambridgeshire County Council, we manage local flood risks. So that's risk from surface water, groundwater, and what we call ordinary watercourses. So these are watercourses that aren't main rivers. So generally smaller, streams, ditches, but it's worth checking whether it's a main river as well. So our team is really split into about 5 different categories. So we've got an investigations and enforcement part, a consenting part, which kind of ties in with investigations and enforcement, strategy, planning, and communities part. So I'll start with investigations and enforcement. So under the Flood and Water Management Act, we have to investigate flood incidents that meet the following criteria. So if there is internal flooding of one property on more than one occasion, if there's 5 or more properties in a single occasion, we say in close proximity, but suggesting that they have been flooded from the same source, where flooding significantly affects the external premises of one or more properties, when flooding on roads disrupts flow of traffic, or when the failure of a significant flood asset has been reported. You might hear these referred to as Section 19 reports because it's under Section 19 of the Flood and Water Management Act that we're obligated to carry out these. But they're all published on our website. So you can download the reports. One thing I will say is that the reports that are published are not the full story of all the work that has gone into them. So there is all sorts of interviews with residents, flood groups, risk management authorities, investigative works that sit behind that. And it's just a summary is the report that's published. Sort of sitting in a similar position to the investigations enforcement team is the consenting part of what we do. We've got powers to regulate ordinary watercourses under the Land Drainage Act. That is in areas that aren't internal drainage board districts. So we can maintain proper flow by issuing consents for altering, removing or replacing certain structures, and that's on ordinary watercourses only, and enforcing obligations to maintain flow in a watercourse and repair watercourses. So that is where you might hear the term riparian owner, and there might be varying levels of enforcement or help on offer to maintain those watercourses. We have a strategy section. So under the Flood and Water Management Act, we have to produce a flood risk management strategy. That's done in partnership with key stakeholders. The main focus is on surface water, groundwater and ordinary watercourses because that's what we're responsible for taking the lead on. But we do consider main rivers because the way that they interact with surface water, groundwater and ordinary watercourses has to be taken into account to understand the full picture. The latest version of the strategy was published in March 2022. I believe some people in this room were consulted on that and gave their opinions and things, which we're very grateful for. But you can find that on our website if you'd like to have a look. We also have a planning department. So as Lead Local Flood Authority, we are a statutory consultee on planning applications that are deemed a major application. So there are a number of criteria which would trigger it to be a major application. That you can find them in the Town and Country Planning, Development Management Procedure Order, but for practical purposes, it's generally thinking about 10 or more residential properties. So those planning applications would come to us. We would look at the flood risk, ensure that what is being proposed is supported by the correct designs to prevent flooding in the wider area. And we have a team of 3 officers who work solely on that. And then the community side of the team, which is where I work, we're the newest sort of section of the team. Our work was sort of born out of following the December 2020 flooding. So there was a pot of money essentially that was awarded from the county council itself to look at increasing community resilience to flooding. So when we say resilience, we mean sort of the community's ability to adapt to flooding through a number of different points. So we've said we want to increase access to flood risk management information, improve flood risk data quality, provide guidance on asset management, and support local groups in establishing community flood plans. We also want to increase the resilience of communities to flooding by encouraging communities to form community flood groups, which is why we're all here and what this is all about. I also thought it would be quite good to run through a few of the sort of projects that we're working on, and many of these sort of involve community flood groups. It might give you a bit of a flavour for projects that you might be able to work with us on in your local area to alleviate flooding. So we have a watercourse maintenance grant. This was originally £300,000 we had allocated. We've got about 200,000 left. Details for applying for it can be found on our website. We've approved 4 so far. The Alconbury project, which has been completed, was vegetation clearance along the brook. They worked with the Environment Agency because it's main river to make sure that this was all above board. The funding actually went partially towards tools and training for volunteers, so that building up this sort of sense of volunteer working and involving the community in what they're doing. Tilbrook was improved drainage along footpath between Church Lane and Station Road, so that's when the village floods, that footpath can also flood and provides sort of useful access for residents. Eltersley was for maintenance of ditches through woodland and along private property frontages, and in Hilton for maintenance of village ponds to include flood storage, and we've also introducing a silt trap to try and help future-proof the works. So yeah, do have a look on our website. We've also got some cards in the information packs we've given out with details of the grant and where you can apply for it. And then a couple of other sort of projects that are less sort of led by the communities. One, which is project installing telemetry. So this is what we've got here as a Connecting Cambridgeshire Telemetry project. It's a pilot project. It's joint funded by Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority and Hunts District Council. Essentially, it's a number of low-cost telemetry devices placed on ordinary watercourses around the county. I believe many of them are in St Neots, and it helps inform our officers and also community groups about rising water levels and helps them monitor river levels. And that obviously gives them access to more information than they would have had previously. Our Suds in Schools project, so this is retrofitting sustainable drainage systems in schools. There's also an element of education in there because the bits that we install in the schools also go some way to inform the children and hopefully also inform the parents about sustainable drainage. And then the Alconbury 40 Ponds project, I've put here that's probably best delivered to you by the Alconbury Flood Group during the next presentation, because I believe Charles will probably touch on that. And that's all for me. Hopefully that's a nice warm up. If anyone's got any quick questions, we can take them now.